Hello, my name is Tony. A near-perfect urban thriller movie, that's all anyone needs to know, really. Marathon Man is the ideal example, the textbook, the blueprint, the instruction manual. It informs by doing, showing and telling. If you care about cinema and you've never seen it, then you need to, because your education has a serious gap in it. It's an essential experience. If you have seen it, you need to see it again at some point in your life. Most appropriately when you feel the need of some reminding of what a proper urban thriller is like, and just how good a film of this type can be when the stars align and everything works in godlike, mind-blowing creative synchrony. This is modern noir, easily on a par with Night Moves. This is how cinema used to be. Yeah, this fucking good. Watch it. Compare it with what we've got today, and your heart will grieve and your soul weep blood that the bar now set for the making of popular films has fallen so godforsakenly low. And you will give eternal thanks that Marathon Man was made, exists, and is still accessible to us. It's a reminder of what we had, what we have lost, and what we will never have again. As such, its impact is almost biblical. Mixing things up a bit, I'm going to go for a different approach to this one. Rather than burn time on outlining the plot and narrative in any detail, I'm going to sketch what the film's about and who's who, and who's doing what, and how they fit in, along with some of my scintillating analysis of why I think, why I know it's so fucking good, and stands on the higher ground of all-time classic American cinema. First, the components and the characters, and a bit about the background as to what's going down. Director is John Schlesinger. He was one of the prime movers of British new wave cinema in the early 60s, with neo-expressionistic, working-class, socially aware affairs like A Kind of Loving, Billy Liar and Darling to his credit. His Hollywood breakthrough came with Midnight Cowboy in '69, but he partially train-wrecked his relationship with Hollywood itself when he made The Day of the Locust in 1975. The Day of the Locust was a bitter and malevolent critique of Hollywood in the 1930s and one of the most scathing autopsies on the moral bankruptcy of Tinseltown. It wasn't well received by critics and bombed at the box office. Biting the hand that feeds can achieve that, which is why he snapped up the offer to direct Marathon Man. Fearing he'd blown his future in the States, he made the decision to make the sort of film he wasn't routinely associated with. Thrillers weren't his bag. He was more of a twisted relationship drama sort of guy, like Midnight Cowboy, a bleak tale of low-life grifters and male prostitution, and Sunday Bloody Sunday, a slow dissection of a multi-gender love triangle. Happily, as it turned out, his direction of Marathon Man is nothing short of incredible. He creates a taut, nervy, jolting vision, dark, jittery and glittery like the malevolent creep of a slow-acting neurological toxin. Utterly stupendous, and for me it stands as his best directorial work. Script is by novelist, essayist and screenwriter William Goldman, adapted from his own book. Goldman was a much sought-after screen author following his successes with Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and All the President's Men. He orchestrates an intricate, elegant and razor-edged exercise in mapping out the action across a volatile urban journey of paralysing fear and shock-inducing tension. His script is cleverly and painstakingly constructed to put the on-screen characters and the audience through an emotional ringer, and it works like a dream, or nightmare, depending on your point of view. Cinematography, courtesy of Conrad Hall, massages the eye with somber shadows and secluded colours, shifts focus from the spiky nighttime loneliness and isolation of city life to the claustrophobic, crowded rush of the daytime carnival of traffic and people. The sense of eerie desolation crawling across all settings is dazzling. Michael Small really strikes pay dirt this time with his soundtrack. Wreathed in ominous chords, jangling chimes and strings, its signature is instantly memorable and smoulders with the icy finesse of immediate aural unease. Considering the stellar work he laid on for Clute, The Parallax View and Night Moves, Marathon Man represents perhaps the best of his compositions for sheer atmospheric punch and tingle. Leading actors are Dustin Hoffman and Laurence Olivier, supported by Roy Scheider, Marta Keller and William Devane. Now that's what I call a cast. Here's a look at who they are and what they're up to. Dustin Hoffman is Thomas Babington Babe Levy, a history PhD student at Columbia University in New York City. As well as being the most mature of mature university students I can recall seeing up to that point, he's a committed runner. His thesis is in part about the McCarthy era and McCarthyism. His father committed suicide following persecution in the McCarthy witch hunts, and Babe is troubled by the lingering trauma of it. When it comes to trouble and trauma though, he ain't seen nothing yet. A violent re-education is is on its way. Laurence Olivier is Christian Zell, a Nazi war criminal lying low in Uruguay. His brother Klaus Bene Dover lives in NYC and has access to a supply of diamonds in a bank safety deposit box. The diamonds were stolen by Christian from Jewish death camp prisoners in Auschwitz, where he was known as Der Weiße Engel, the White Angel. Every so often, Klaus withdraws some diamonds to send to his brother to fund his clandestine lifestyle. Only this one time, Klaus stumbles into a road rage confrontation with an elderly Jewish driver, which escalates into a catastrophic crash, killing them both. Christian is fucked. Fearing that the secret American agency he feeds information to on other war criminals in return for being left in peace will now confiscate the diamonds, he shaves his head, breaks cover, and heads to New York. Roy Scheider is Henry Doc Levy. He's Babe's older brother. Doc works for the agency that handles Zell. To all intents and purposes, his cover is that of an oil company executive, but he's more of a troubleshooting hitman type. After an assassination attempt on his life, he returns to US soil. He visits Babe, but his real reason for being in the city is to intercept Zell and persuade him to leave. He humiliates and slaps down the Nazi when they meet. Zell's weapon of choice is a retractable blade secreted up his sleeve. Incensed at his treatment, he guts Doc with it. Fatally wounded, bleeding copiously, Doc makes it back to Babe's grungy apartment and dies in his brother's arms. Marta Keller is Elsa, a woman claiming to be a Swiss student at Columbia and Babe's romantic interest. Elsa is gorgeous and super hot, and Babe is an impoverished short arse, a garrulous geek, often sweaty and breathless from running. Which begs the question, what's the attraction? Obvious from Babe's end, but not so much from hers. Anyway, the pair get mugged and beaten up in Central Park, which in itself isn't extraordinary, except for the fact that the two muggers are wearing suits and ties. Doc is suspicious of her, thinking she might be linked to Zell. When out to lunch with her and Babe, he manipulates her into revealing she's been untruthful about her background. Despite his genuine suspicions, he tells Babe that she's just out to marry a no-mark bum like him to become a US citizen. Esteem booster. William Devane is Peter Janeway, Doc's creepy and very dodgy agency colleague, instantly as untrustworthy as a used condom in a barrel full of tin tacks. He takes over the police investigation into Doc's death and interrogates Babe, convinced that his brother imparted information with his dying breath. Babe denies this and finds himself kidnapped by Zell's neo-Nazi colleagues and tortured by the man himself to ascertain if it's safe. Zell repeats the question, is it safe, throughout.
Is it safe? Is it safe? Is it safe? Is it safe?
Babe can't give a satisfactory answer because he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, which puts him in a bit of a bind. Janeway stages a rescue and whilst driving Babe away demands to know what he knows. As mentioned previously, Babe doesn't know anything, and a mightily pissed off Janeway drives him back to Zell. Yes, he's working with the death camp jockey to retrieve the diamond haul. Later it becomes obvious that his personal agenda is to betray Zell and snag the gems for himself. It's one of those rare films where, even though the two leads hand in show-stopping performances, the supporting cast is strong and capable enough not to be eclipsed or sidelined. Scheider, Devane and Keller don't put a foot wrong in their respective portrayals. A top-rate cast doing top-notch work. Marathon Man benefits from perfectly formed set-piece upon set-piece that seamlessly integrate with and drive the narrative. Morbidly intriguing and grimly enticing with lots going on, but critics and audiences alike tend to fixate on the brilliantly acted tooth-drilling torture scene to the exclusion of a lot of other great stuff. It is an iconic moment and does tap into most everyone's nagging primal fear of a visit to the dentist. Recently I was driving through Abergavenny where the speed limit is now restricted to 20 miles per hour. This is a drag, but on the plus side does leave more time to look around when you should be concentrating on the road. What the hell, hit someone or something doing 20 probably won't kill anyone or do much damage. My attention was grabbed by this. I'm going so slow, I was able to take some snaps on my phone without swerving or endangering life and limb too much. Not my life and limb anyway, I'm in a slow-moving metal and plastic box. So, you know, winner. Voted Best Dentist 2020. What the fuck is the relevance of that? 3 fucking years ago. By now it could be the worst, most pain-inducing dental practice in the world. Who cares how good something was in 2020? It's how good or bad it is now that matters. Still, however bad it might be, when it comes to dental malpractice, it ain't gonna be as bad as Zell. He drills the fuck out of Babe's teeth without anesthetic. It is so well shot, filmed, acted, that I defy anyone not to feel the urge to look away. Olivier and Hoffman are consummate and transcendent. Hoffman for his ability to project agonizing and escalating fear, panic, terror, and the effects of excruciating pain. Olivier in representing the urbane essence of cold-eyed human evil, wearing a thin veneer of clinical benevolence and manufactured concern. Truly, truly excellent and unforgettable. It will have impact. Apart from all that, there's the catastrophic car crash of a beginning, Doc's vicious and grueling fight with his would-be assassins, Zell disemboweling him against the backdrop of a sodium-lit fountain at night, Babe being menaced in his apartment before getting kidnapped. Babe's escape from captivity tracked with the first use of Steadicam in a major motion picture, and it works an absolute treat. Then there's the revelation of Elsa working with Janeway and Zell, the shootout at a deserted country house where Elsa has transported and betrayed Babe. Janeway shooting her, and Babe, suddenly sick of being a victim, gunning down Janeway with an efficiency born of explosive anger. He then regards Elsa's corpse dispassionately, responding with a suck at his damaged tooth. Lastly, of course, the final confrontation with Zell in an empty Central Park pump house. One of the most satisfying endings of any thriller movie ever. If you're wondering if I like Marathon Man, wonder no more. I don't just like it, I love it. I didn't read any reviews prior to going to see it at the Old Market Hall, but I did afterwards, just curious to see if the professionals agreed with my take on it at all. And I'll be honest, I was a little dismayed. Some rated it, but a lot didn't. One critic called it the ultimate Jewish revenge fantasy. Well, pardon me, all over the fucking place. Not only does that sound a tiny bit anti-Semitic, it's also wildly inaccurate and willfully disingenuous. Most of the peripheral Jewish characters end up victims, collateral damage. The guy who engages in the road rage incident with Zell's brother, the old woman who recognizes Zell on the street and is mown down by a car, and the jewelry store assistant who also recognizes Zell and pursues him, only to get his throat slit for his pains. And of course, Doc Levy is eviscerated by Deviser Engel. Sure, yes, Babe triumphs in the end, but his attempt to torture Zell by making him eat the diamonds fails when Zell flatly refuses to comply. Babe doesn't actually kill him either. Zell dies fatefully by his own hand, impaled on his retractable blade after falling down wrought iron steps. Not sure how all this adds up to a Jewish revenge fantasy. What it does add up to, though, is a phenomenally cracking urban thriller, an ominously feverish psychological suspenser that does have some compelling insights to offer into the nature of persecution, historical pain, torture, greed, evil, and the darkness in the hearts of men. It effortlessly mines the fearful, dark, and paranoid themes of McCarthyism and Nazism, and resonates still with the world we live in today. You don't have to look far or very hard to find this still about. The culture of human and intellectual cancellation and suppression represent the fashionable ideologies of now. They don't go away, just tweak and reinvent themselves. Marathon Man also to some extent touches on the unquestioning narcissism of the male ego. If a beautiful, impossibly gorgeous and sexy woman wants to have sex with a guy, the guy, whatever state he's in, physically, hygienically, mentally, thinks it's because he's so attractive she really wants to have sex with him. Thinking ulterior motives don't normally enter into it. However, as Michael Caine as Harry Palmer in Funeral in Berlin put it,
Inspector Reinhardt, do you find me physically attractive, irresistible? I mean, if you saw me in the street, would you throw yourself at my feet? She says her name is Samantha Steele.
It means nothing. Check if you like.
She picked me up last night, and with my irresistible charm, I want to know why and who she's working for.
it's a question worth considering, guys. Could save you a fortune on orthodontic reconstruction work. Thanks once again for your time and attention. If you feel so disposed, could you find the energy to hit like, didn't like, leave a comment, or subscribe? Or if you're really enthusiastic and fancy burning some cash, visit my Patreon page, where new content is showcased first. Or mash the super thanks button, that one there. Something new will arrive soon, well, soon as I do it, that is. Au reservoir for now.